It was exactly 3:38 p.m. on a Wednesday when I saw it for the first time, bright red, soft as hell looking, and definitely not mine. It was folded neatly on the edge of the couch like someone had forgotten it after a lazy afternoon of coffee and Netflix. Only thing is, I don't drink coffee, and I sure as hell didn't watch Netflix that day. Laura had said she was homesick, headache, cramps, general misery. I left work early to surprise her with takeout from that Thai place she likes, even remembered to ask for extra peanut sauce like she always complains they forget. I wasn't trying to catch her in anything, wasn't even suspicious. It was just a husband doing something nice. But the moment I stepped inside and saw that damn red sweater, my chest did something weird. It felt like being winded without actually getting hit. At first, I tried to play it cool. Maybe it was hers. Maybe she bought a new one. Maybe it was a gift from her sister. My brain went through every possible explanation as I walked into the kitchen, where I found her standing by the counter with a cup of tea and a look that didn't belong to someone who was supposed to be sick. Her hair was up in that messy bun she only did when she was lounging around, but her makeup was perfect. Not full glam, but more than usual for someone spending the day in bed. I handed her the food and asked how she was feeling, trying to keep it light, casual, as if I hadn't just noticed something that didn't sit right. She smiled, said she was feeling a bit better, mumbled something about watching a documentary and needing to rest her eyes, then thanked me for the food with a kiss that landed half on my lips and half on my cheek. That was strike two. Laura doesn't miss when she kisses. Not unless she's distracted. And she was definitely distracted. Hey, did someone come by earlier? I asked, not trying to sound accusatory, just throwing the line out there to see what she'd do with it. Her answer came a little too fast. No, why? I didn't answer. Just shrugged and nodded, then walked back to the living room like I'd forgotten something, pretending to check my phone while my eyes locked on to that red sweater. I picked it up, slow and casual, like it didn't mean anything, like it wasn't loaded with implications. The fabric was soft, cashmere maybe, and it smelled like some cologne I didn't recognize. Subtle, expensive. Definitely not the deodorant I use or the lemon-scented crap Laura sprays around the house. This yours? I called out, raising it a little, still pretending to be clueless. She walked over and looked at it like she was seeing it for the first time. Oh, yeah, I think it's from last winter. I forgot I had it. You sure? I asked, holding it out to her. Yeah, why wouldn't I be? She said, not meeting my eyes. That's when I knew something was off. Not because of the sweater alone, but because of how fast the lie came, how rehearsed it sounded, like she'd been waiting for me to find it. She took it from my hand and folded it again, placing it on the armrest like it belonged there, like we both hadn't just realized it didn't. I wanted to ask more, wanted to push, but I didn't. I went upstairs, sat on the edge of the bed, and stared at the wall for a solid 10 minutes while the sounds of her opening containers and clinking utensils filled the silence between us. Something was happening, and I didn't know what yet, but I was going to find out. When you're married long enough, you start to recognize the little shifts, the silences that last one beat too long, the smiles that don't quite reach the eyes, the overly specific explanations that show up out of nowhere. Laura had changed in the past few weeks, and I'd chalked it up to work stress or maybe just needing some space. But now I was sure it was something else. The red sweater wasn't proof. It was bait. And I took it. The next day, I didn't go to work. I pretended I had a dentist appointment in the morning, told Laura I'd be home around lunch, but I never left the neighborhood. I parked 3 streets over at a gas station that hadn't worked in years and waited. I brought a coffee, a stale croissant, and a notebook. The coffee was cold before I even touched it. At 9:22 a.m., I saw her car leave the driveway. I followed her from a distance, not close enough to get spotted, but not far enough to lose her. She didn't go to school. Her shift at the high school starts at 8:30 a.m., so she should have already been there. Instead, she turned onto Holloway Drive and pulled into a townhouse complex that looked too new and too quiet for a school visit. She parked in front of Unit 18, sat there for about a minute, then stepped out with a small gym bag slung over her shoulder. She didn't knock. She walked straight in, like she belonged there, like she'd done it a dozen times. I stayed in the car for a while, heart beating fast but mind completely still. Then I got out and walked. Not toward the unit, at least not directly. I made a slow pass around the block, circled back to where I had a clear line of sight, then sat on the sidewalk bench someone had probably installed to make the place look friendly. I watched Unit 18 for 46 minutes. The shade stayed shut, no sign of movement, no one else went in or out. When she finally came out, she had her hair up again, and the gym bag was gone. When she drove off, I waited 10 minutes before knocking. The man who opened the door was in his 30s. He was shirtless, tattoos running down both arms, hair still wet like he'd just showered. He looked surprised to see me, but not alarmed. I looked past him into the living room and saw the red sweater draped over the back of the couch. I didn't say a word. I turned and walked back to my car. That night, I didn't mention anything. Laura was already home when I got back, standing at the kitchen counter pretending to read a recipe on her phone while a pan of something sizzled behind her. She acted like everything was normal. She even kissed me properly this time. Asked how the dentist was. I said it was fine. We ate. We watched a show. We talked about the neighbor's new car. The whole evening passed like a perfectly scripted routine, and if I hadn't followed her that morning, I probably would have believed her. I waited 3 more days. Each morning, I called in sick and watched her routine. Twice she went back to Unit 18. Once she didn't leave the house at all. The pattern was clear. She never took anything that looked like school materials. She left with the gym bag and came back with nothing. Her school's phone directory confirmed my suspicion she had no classes on Wednesdays or Fridays this semester. They were her work-from-home days. That Friday, I tested her. I've got a long client call at noon. Might stay in the office late, I said as I tied my shoes by the door. That's okay, she said. I've got a ton of grading to do anyway. You going to be home all day? Yeah, probably, she answered without looking up from her coffee. I left, drove 10 blocks, parked, and walked back on foot. I watched her leave 20 minutes later. I didn't follow her this time. I went inside, walked into the bedroom, opened her top dresser drawer, and started going through everything. I wasn't looking for anything in particular. I was just looking. At the bottom, I found a receipt folded inside an envelope. Not hidden, not stashed away, just there. It was from a boutique lingerie shop downtown, dated 3 weeks ago, with items I'd never seen before listed on the slip. That was enough. I sat down on the edge of the bed and held the receipt like it was some kind of delicate note, though it weighed heavier than anything else I'd ever held in my life. That night, when she got home, I asked, "How was your day?" "Busy," she said. "I had to finish grading some projects and write a few emails." I nodded, not saying anything. "Why?" she asked. "Did something happen?" I reached into my jacket and handed her the receipt. She took it, glanced at it for less than 2 seconds, and then looked back at me. "What is this?" she asked, voice calm but her grip tightening slightly. "You tell me," I said. "It's mine," she replied quickly. "I bought some stuff for myself." "You didn't tell me." "I don't have to tell you everything." "I know where you were today." She went completely still. No flicker of panic, no apology, just stillness. Then, as if reading from a teleprompter, she said, "You've been spying on me?" "I followed you," I said, "on Wednesday too. And Monday. I saw you go into his place. I saw you leave without the bag. Then I guess we don't need to talk about it anymore, do we?" She turned and walked out of the room, left the receipt on the bed next to me. That was the first real confirmation. She didn't deny it. She didn't even try to spin it. She just gave up the moment I put it in front of her. But I wasn't done yet. I waited until Sunday because I didn't want to do it when either of us had something to run away to. No work, no errands, no plans. I wanted her trapped in the house with nowhere to go and nothing to hide behind. I woke up early, sat in the kitchen with my coffee, and waited for her to come down. She walked in around 9, wearing the robe I bought her last Christmas, and went straight for the kettle like everything was normal. I watched her move around, the way she avoided eye contact, the way her voice stayed light when she asked if I wanted eggs. I didn't answer. I just waited until she turned around. Then I said it. "His name is Jacob, isn't it?" She froze, hands still on the kettle. The sound of the water boiling didn't cover the silence that followed. She turned slowly, leaned against the counter, and crossed her arms. She didn't look scared, just tired. "You looked through my things?" she asked. "That's what you're going to open with?" "You invaded my privacy. I followed you to his apartment. I saw you go inside. You didn't seem very private about it then." "Do you want me to lie?" she said, finally meeting my eyes. "No, I want you to talk. It didn't start like that." "Then how did it start?" She exhaled, rubbed her temple, then walked over and sat across from me. I thought maybe she'd try to cry, pretend to be confused or sorry, but she didn't. She sat there calmly, like we were discussing bills or vacation plans. "We met last year. He works at the community center. I was volunteering there once a week, helping with the adult ed programs. It started as small talk. It became longer conversations. Then we got lunch a few times. I like the way you listened. You know how long it's been since someone actually asked me how I was doing and waited for an answer. I didn't say anything. I just listened. He's 10 years younger. No kids. No baggage. He made me feel like I still mattered. Not just as a teacher or a wife or whatever label you want to throw on me. Just as a person. I didn't go looking for it. But it happened. How long? I asked. 5 months. You slept with him. She didn't flinch. Yes. In our house? No. Never here. How thoughtful of you. I didn't bring him into your bed, if that's what you're asking. You mean our bed? She paused. Right. Our bed. I stood up and walked to the sink, not because I needed water or anything, just because I didn't want to sit still anymore. I looked out the window and watched a squirrel run across the fence. Then I turned back to her. So what now? You want a divorce? I don't know. That's not an answer. I didn't plan for this. You didn't plan to get caught, either. She didn't respond. I could feel the heat rising in my chest, my breathing changing. I took a deep breath and leaned against the counter. Did you love him? No. But you wanted to? No. I wanted to feel something. That's different. Did you ever feel guilty? Every time I came home. Then why did you keep going back? Because guilt doesn't erase loneliness. And what was I supposed to be doing this whole time? Reading your mind? I told you months ago I wasn't happy. You said you were stressed. I said I felt empty. And I said I'd help. I asked if you wanted to talk. You shut me out. Because every time I tried, you made it about fixing something. Like I was broken. I slammed my hand against the countertop, not hard, but loud enough to make her jump. You were broken if cheating was your solution. Then maybe I am, she said, voice steady. We stared at each other for a long time. I wasn't sure if I wanted to scream or leave or just sit down and start over. She didn't cry. I didn't cry. We just sat in the wreckage. Finally, I said, I want you out by the end of the week. Where am I supposed to go? Not my problem. This is my house too. Then sleep in the car. Sleep at his place. Sleep in the school gym for all I care. But I don't want you here. She stood up, opened her mouth, then closed it again. She walked past me, up the stairs, and shut the bedroom door. I didn't follow. I didn't have anything else to say. Not that day. On Monday, I started the process. I didn't talk to her unless I had to. I moved all my clothes into the guest room, packed away anything personal, took the wedding photos off the wall, and left them stacked neatly on the hallway floor. I didn't explain anything because I wasn't interested in explanations anymore. When she came downstairs and saw the changes, she didn't say a word. Just stood there, stared at the empty walls, then walked into the kitchen and made herself tea. I watched her pour the water, stir in honey, and drink it like nothing around her was falling apart. That's when I knew she hadn't really processed anything yet. She still thought this was some phase I'd cool off from. She still thought she had control. That belief had to be broken. On Wednesday, I went to see a lawyer. I'd already done the research, picked someone with a reputation for being ruthless but fair. She didn't sugarcoat anything. She explained my options, told me what to expect, gave me a checklist of documents to gather. I told her I wasn't sure if I was ready to file, but I wanted to be prepared. She said that was smart. Before I left, I paid the retainer. I wanted to see how it felt. It felt right. That night, I waited until after dinner to tell her. I saw a lawyer today. She didn't look surprised. She put her fork down and nodded like she'd expected it but hoped I wouldn't go through with it. Are you filing? She asked. Not yet. Why not? I'm giving you a week. For what? To move out. To figure out where you're going. To think about what kind of person you are. She pushed her plate away and leaned back in her chair. You think kicking me out is going to make you feel better? No. But watching you struggle for a bit might. I'm not your enemy, Dan. You cheated on me. That makes you worse than an enemy. I didn't mean to hurt you. You just meant to fuck someone else and come home like nothing happened? She didn't answer. Exactly, I said. The next day, I started letting people know. Not everyone. Just enough. I met with my older brother for coffee and laid it all out. He was furious on my behalf. He asked if I wanted him to talk to her, maybe scare her a little. I said no, but the offer made me feel better. I told 2 of our mutual friends, both of whom said they always thought she was too distant, too cold. I could see the satisfaction in their faces when they heard what she did. It was petty, but it felt good. The more people knew, the less alone I felt in it. And the more she'd feel it later, when the truth started bouncing back to her. On Friday, I left work early and picked up a lockbox. I moved every important document into it, birth certificates, car titles, passports, everything. I put it in my office and didn't give her the code. I disconnected her access from our shared bank account. I opened a new one and moved my paycheck there. I left enough in the joint account for groceries, nothing more. When she asked about it later, I said it was a precaution. She called it dramatic. I called it necessary. Saturday morning, she tried to talk. She brought coffee into the guest room and sat on the edge of the bed like we were still a couple. She didn't cry. She didn't beg. She just asked if we could talk calmly for 5 minutes. "You've got to," I said, not looking at her. "I understand that I messed up. I'm not asking you to forgive me, but I am asking you to stop acting like I'm a criminal. You think you deserve sympathy? I think I deserve to be treated like a human. Humans don't lie to their spouses for half a year." She put the cup on the nightstand and stood up. "You've made your point. You've made it every day since you found out. I'm not done making it. Then what do you want from me, Dan? Blood? No. Just your absence." She left without another word. Later that day, I changed the Wi-Fi password. She asked me for it when she got home from the grocery store, and I told her I'd send it once she moved out. She stared at me like she didn't recognize the man in front of her. That was fine. I didn't recognize her either. By Monday, the week I'd given her was almost up, and she still hadn't left. She kept doing the same things, making coffee in the morning, asking if I needed anything when she went to the store, pretending like we were still some kind of team. I ignored her as much as I could. The only words I gave her were logistics. Mail, groceries, laundry. Everything else was silence. She didn't push, which made me wonder if she was waiting for me to explode or just trying to outlast me. Either way, I wasn't giving her what she wanted. I wanted her to sit in it, to feel every hour like a cold reminder that she didn't belong here anymore. Tuesday night, I came home and found her sitting on the edge of the couch with her suitcase half-packed. The red sweater was folded on top, like a punchline. I didn't say anything. I walked past her into the kitchen and poured a drink. She followed me, her steps slow, hesitant. "Can we talk before I go?" I didn't look at her. I stirred the ice in the glass until it stopped clinking. Then I turned around and leaned against the counter. "What do you want me to say?" I asked. Not to beg. Not for forgiveness. Just say something that isn't hate. "I don't hate you. You act like you do. I act like someone who got lied to and cheated on. That's not hate. That's clarity." She nodded, looked down, then back at me. "I never planned for it to happen like this. No one ever does. Doesn't change what you did." I know it doesn't." She walked a few steps closer, arms folded across her chest like she was cold, but I knew it was just habit. She always did that when she was nervous. I stayed because I didn't want this to end like it didn't mean anything. 11 years, Dan. I know I ruined it. I know I lost your trust. But we were something. And I'm not leaving without saying that. I took a breath and stared at her. She wasn't crying. She looked tired. Honest, maybe, but not regretful enough for what I needed. "I loved you," I said. "I would have done anything for you." And I did. I carried the hard days. I made the boring days bearable, and I didn't step out the moment things got quiet. You did. You gave yourself to someone else, then came home and slept beside me like you weren't tearing something apart. She opened her mouth, then shut it. I kept going. "I don't need you to cry. I don't need you to explain how lonely you felt or how you didn't mean to fall into it. I needed you to be better than that, and you weren't. So now you go. And I clean up the mess you left." "You think I didn't love you?" she asked. "I think you stopped being someone I could respect." She swallowed hard. "You're right. I didn't come here to fix it. I came here because I didn't want to vanish without facing you. You deserve that much." "No, I deserve more than that. You gave me this instead." She nodded again, then walked to the door. She picked up her suitcase and turned back one last time. "If you ever want to talk." "I don't," I cut in. She blinked once, then left. I watched the door close behind her. The house was quiet in a way that didn't feel peaceful or tragic. It just felt real. That night, I sat in the living room alone. No TV, no music, just the sound of the fridge cycling on and off. I didn't feel victorious. I didn't feel broken. I felt like I was finally breathing my own air. There wasn't a rush of relief. Just space. The next morning, I emailed the lawyer. I told her I was ready to file. The first morning without her felt strange, not because I missed her, but because the rhythm of the house had changed. There was no sound of the kettle starting up at 7, no cabinet opening where she kept the mugs, no quiet footsteps moving from the hallway into the kitchen. I sat at the table and stared at the chair she used to sit in, not out of sentiment, but to confirm that it was empty, that this time she was really gone. I didn't turn on the TV. I didn't call anyone. I just sat there for a while and let it sink in. The space she left behind wasn't hollow, it was quiet. And for the first time in weeks, it felt like I could think without constantly circling the same 4 questions. I went back to work that afternoon, and when people asked how I was, I said fine. Nobody pushed. Maybe some had heard. Maybe they just didn't care. I didn't mind either way. I finished my tasks, went home, made dinner, and went to bed. Life was boring again, and boring was what I needed. Over the next few days, I moved her things into boxes. I didn't throw anything away. I wasn't interested in that kind of statement. I just labeled each box with her name and put them in the garage. If she wanted them, she could come get them. If not, I'd deal with it later. She texted 3 days later. It was short, polite, and cautious. She asked if she could stop by to pick up her things. I said yes, told her the boxes were in the garage and she could come by on Saturday afternoon. She didn't reply, just showed up exactly on time. I opened the garage door, walked back into the house, and didn't speak to her. I sat on the couch and waited. I could hear the sliding of boxes, the sound of tape tearing open, the occasional thump of something hitting the floor. She didn't come inside. When she left, I didn't walk her out. The boxes I'd packed didn't include anything sentimental. I kept the wedding album in the guest room closet. Not because I wanted it, but because I didn't want her to have it either. A week after that, we met at the lawyer's office to sign the first round of papers. She wore a black jacket I hadn't seen before. I wore the same shirt I always wore for things like this. We didn't sit next to each other. We didn't make eye contact. The lawyer went through the documents, explained everything carefully, handed each of us a pen. I signed. She signed. That was it. No drama, no speeches, no tears. Just ink on paper. When it was done, she asked if we could talk. We stepped outside, stood by the corner of the building where no one was around. She leaned against the wall, arms crossed, staring at the sidewalk. I waited. I'm not going to keep bothering you, she said. Okay. I just wanted to say I didn't take this lightly. You did it anyway. I know. We stood there for a few seconds, then she looked up at me. Do you think we'll ever talk again? Not as a couple. Just people. No, I said. She nodded once. I figured. Just wanted to hear it. That part of my life's over, I said. I'm not looking back. She didn't say anything else. She turned and walked to her car without another word. I watched her drive away without a second of hesitation. In the weeks that followed, I started sleeping better. I began putting up new photos in the hallway, ones that didn't include her. I unsubscribed from streaming accounts that had her name on them, changed the locks, took her name off the utilities, cleared out the kitchen drawer that used to be filled with her loose tea packets and vitamins. I told the lawyer to move forward with finalizing everything. One night, I found myself standing in the backyard, grilling a steak, something I hadn't done in months. I stood there, alone, watching the smoke drift upward. I wasn't sad. I wasn't angry. I just felt clear. Like I could finally focus on what mattered, my job, my friends, my future. Not her. I didn't make a list of lessons learned. I didn't start journaling. I didn't suddenly become wiser or more in touch with my emotions. I didn't need a new hobby or a road trip or a fresh start in another city. What I needed was to be alone, to remember that I didn't have to carry someone else's bullshit to feel like a complete person. And now, I don't.